going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Loud Podcast. Today, our special guest is Jimmy from Myers Creek. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. I've been excited ever since I talked to Shane and kind of got part of your story. I've been excited to get you on the show, and it happened really fast.
Yeah.
So, thanks for making that happen.
Sure.
You have a lot to tell. You've been a steward of the plant. You are a big part of Granddaddy Purple.
I am.
And we're here to get that story today. In fact, that's the thing that excites me the most.
Nice.
But let's start off with how you got involved with cannabis.
I was young. I was a teenager. My mom was dating a guy who grew. She wasn't a consumer of cannabis. And he always had, flower around the house. I don't know if it was to impress mom or something like that. But there was always like these, large outdoor, big baseball bats. Yeah. So when I was a kid, I just clipped the bottom off here and there. And I didn't even smoke at the time. We were just, we didn't have, lots of money. Right. I just knew if I sell this to the stoners, I can get some money. And I can buy a skateboard. Right. And that was the motivation at 14, 15 years old. Wasn't until I was, a little bit older in my teenage years where I actually started consuming it. Mm-hmm. And then just natural progression, just went into, next thing you know, you're growing.
Well, we're similar ages. So those were special times in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, I used to drive down to Santa Cruz. I've told the story on my podcast many times, but I used to get the strawberry bud from Santa Cruz. There was nothing strawberry about it. It was skunk, but it was strawberry-shaped buds. Okay, yeah. We used to drive for an eighth. We would, for $60 eighth, we would drive all the way to Santa Cruz, which was over an hour away, for an eighth.
Yeah.
But we loved that weed. It was insane. And it's funny because names didn't mean what they mean now necessarily. Yeah. So a lot of times it was just the kill or some crippler or whatever, whatever the name was at the time.
Yeah. We had, back then, exactly. Names weren't really, you had a few strains that were like Northern Lights, just the old school originals. But everything after that was just kind of make up a name. Yeah. The mid-90s, it was like just make up a name. I was up in Humboldt County and I was like the young guy who was moving all the older guys' stuff. I'm like, well, what is it? They're like, it's weed, kid. And I'm like, you got to give it a name. Yeah. Just name it something and I could put a price on it then. And that's when all the names started coming around, and everyone just started naming stuff. And
I remember the Mendo Purps was like, we got Mendo Purps, but it was like probably like 4 different strains. Yeah. So it wasn't specific. It was from Mendocino and it was purple. So we called it the Mendo Purps.
Yeah. That was definitely, we saw the Mendo Purps around back then. What were some of the other ones? Snowcap, Acorn, Mango. Yeah. Even Blue Dream back then. I was mainly known for Blue Dream. I moved a lot of Blue Dream back.
That was 90s.
That was
late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. I'm going to say 98, 99, 2000, somewhere in there. I have multiple groups that I was working with, and each group had their own strain that they focused on. Right. So, and a big chunk of that came from some Blue Dream guys. I had some Mango guys and then Snowcap guys. And then just these other guys were like, I don't know, it's Green Bud, kid.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had the Cat Piss.
Oh yeah.
The Cat Piss was big back then.
Yeah.
But then the strains coming out of Eugene, Oregon, we got a lot of genetics from there. The 4-way, we got the snow, not the snow cap, but there was the snow. Mm-hmm. There was the corn. Is
that the Fairfax 4-way? Fairfax 4-way. I think we had a 4-way out here too. It was called Fairfax 4-way.
I'm not sure.
Could be wrong.
But yeah, it's funny with names.
Yeah.
But there were some super far strains. The Trinity was a really big one. We loved that.
Yeah. I remember Trinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had the Dog Bud. That was, and they gave it to us as DAWG, even though Chem Dog is DOG.
Right.
So.
Yeah, at that time we were going up to Alder Point, out there on Alder Point Road in Bloxburg. Oh, yeah. And one of our friends, he had an uncle who grew up there. We were like 17, 18 years old. And at high school, if you had Green Bud back then in high school, you were the man. Yeah. That was it. And again, it didn't have a name. It was just seedless, and it was just really good, got you super high. And his name was Richard, so we just ended up calling it Dickweed.
Dickweed.
And so Dickweed was like one of the first strains for me as a teenager that like, kind of put me and my group of friends kind of on the map because we were the only ones in our age group at the time who had anything like that.
Right.
There was still like brick.
A lot of brickweed. Yeah. Same thing. We saw a lot of brickweed, that.
Yeah. And then the BC started coming down. Yeah. A lot of BC.
That was like 97, 98-ish.
Yeah. Me and my friends, we were moving quite a lot of that back then.
Yeah.
Weekly, like,
we were talking about this on the podcast the other day, but yeah, the football size pounds where like you would have to have a scale to show people that it was actually a gram or a pound. People are like, that's a quarter pound. And it's like, if you compared it to outdoor, it would be a quarter of the size.
Yeah, I mean, we vacuum seal, but we would like leave that little bit of air for that sponginess. But that Canadian stuff come over, it was just,
dude. It was like from both ends, Mexico and Canada, they were pushing the shit.
Yep.
So to get it in the country.
Yep.
Wild.
With plenty of that stuff. Again, there was names. Some of the names back then, I think there was Champagne.
Yeah.
Champagne was one of the main ones that I remember.
The Canadian ones.
Yeah, the Canadian one. But it's so long ago, I can't remember any of those.
Yeah, I remember the Juicy Fruit specific, Juicy and Orange Crush.
Yep. And then, 97, 98, that's when, the cannabis cups going on in Amsterdam.
Right.
So I had friends who were, flying over there and bringing back seeds,
going to the
cups and saying, you guys, we do it better here in Northern California.
Yeah.
Like they harvest theirs in 6 weeks. It's premature. It's this, it's that. We do it better here. I was like, oh, wow. So there's no need for, to go other than the experience. I never went, but every time a friend went, hey, bring me back this. And some of the first stuff that I brought back was, that I had was Sensi Seed Bank.
Yeah.
G13 hash plant.
Sensi had really good stuff back in the day. Not that they don't have good stuff now, but back in the day, that was the seed bank. It's like the greenhouse got good stuff. Other people had good stuff too, but Sensi had like the real Durban.
Yeah.
Right? Like the real deal genetics. It was like, oh, dude, you got the Sensi.
Yeah, I had Hindu Kush from them as well.
Jack Flash was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Jack Flash wasn't like the Jack that people know today. It was funky. It was pungent. It would burn your nose. And you don't see a lot of that stuff anymore. And I haven't seen Jack Flash in 25 years.
Yeah, I haven't seen, even just straight Jack Herrera. I haven't seen that in a long time either. Some people, there's the same thing with Blue Dream, love and hate.
Right. Well, and then like what people think of as Jack Herrera is, I feel like has changed a lot too. It's very linear now, but the Jack back in the day that we saw as Jack Herrera was not linear. It was still limey, but it was pungent and strong, really strong.
Yeah.
And looked amazing in the bag. It had like this, there was lime green and looked amazing.
Yeah, I had a couple of friends. They had they were running Williams Wonder.
Yeah,
Willie Jack.
Yeah,
and it didn't.
It's
have
all podgily looking.
Yeah, and it didn't have that bag appeal. Our senses, our eyes first, and then our smell. So you would look at it and go, and then you would open it up and you go, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, let's work with this.
Totally. The Durban was like that back in the day. Sour sometimes. Sour could be like really fingery and grow foxtails. Still be freaking amazing.
Fire.
Yeah, totally.
I still, I rarely step foot into a dispensary, but every once in a while I do just to see what's going on. You see it's just all, desserts, fruits, candies, purple gas, and I'm always like, where's the sour? Where's the chem? Where's the OG? Yeah. And they just, you can't do, sour in production. Once you've shown a company that you can give them 5.6 runs a year, they're not going to let you throw a 10-week into that cycle.
I think even access to the genetics is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because I have yet to see really amazing sour. Everyone keeps talking about it, but they keep on bringing me stuff that's not like the sour that I remember.
Yeah, so, I agree.
But even Blue Dream. I see good Blue Dream, but I don't see like the Blue Dream that we had back in the day was the, people talk shit about Blue Dream now a lot because they don't know what really good Blue Dream is.
Yeah.
Blue Dream was the apical of structure. It was the top as far as looks. It looked the best. It grew sticky. It had its own, I wouldn't say pungent, but it was strong blueberry nose. And it just, the pounds looked amazing. You open a pound of amazing Blue Dream, you're like, fuck, that's some of the best looking stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't smoke how you want it to smoke or whatever, but it was special in its own right.
Oh yeah. And it was just an easy grower.
Yeah. It was
so easy. It was so heavy. It was like a no brainer. Like all the beginning people who like started growing with me and I taught them how to grow, I always gave them Blue Dream here.
Yeah. Then they thought they were champs until they tried to grow OG.
Yeah.
Right?
They're like, why is there all the PM everywhere?
Yeah.
Welcome to some real stuff now.
Yeah, there's a lot more challenging genetics that don't yield as well. I like a lot of those things.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that doesn't yield well, it's shitty for 60 days, and then you get to smoke it, you're like, this is why I did it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, so, Canadian, and then for a while there, I was working with some guys. I was probably like 19 or 20. They They had a strain. This was the first time, we always talk about, hoarding, people like not letting the cut out.
Yeah.
And I worked with these group of guys. I would move all of their product for them, but the cut that they had, it was called Ganny. Came from Washington, Oregon, something like that. And these guys held on to it like it was like the most holiest thing ever. Like even when I went into the veg room, like I wasn't allowed to go into the veg room by myself.
Wow.
They escorted me everywhere I went because they weren't going to let me slip a cut into my pocket, nothing. And I worked with those guys for a little while there. And unfortunately, they were some older guys. I was always the youngest guy wherever I went. And there was some drug issues with those guys. And when that kind of surfaced, I was like, whoa, okay, nice knowing you guys. I'm going to go this way. Moved away from them. And then just, that natural progression, what's the next move? Well, I've met all the, distributors that I know. Let's move to Humboldt. At the time, some of my friends, it was still pretty scary back then. People, it still happens now these days. My friends were getting, hog-tied and thrown in their bathtub, and it started getting closer to me. And it was like, whoa, they hit so-and-so. Whoa, they hit so-and-so. Those are all my guys. Like, I'm out of here. And bounced up to Humboldt County and just started there. I went up there with a chunk of money, didn't know a soul. I knew one person from high school. Yeah. She had moved up there to go to Humboldt State. That was my only connection to the county. Reached out to her, hey, I'm up here now, blah, blah, blah. And she introduces me to her father-in-law, who just opened up the county to me.
Wow.
Basically. Took a while to gain trust.
Right.
I was the young new face in town up there, especially, Fortuna and Ferndale, some of the areas that I was in. Small town. Yeah. Everyone knows everyone.
Everybody knows everybody.
And, you're the new guy. No one's talking to you for quite a while until someone co-signs for you and says, no, he's a good kid.
Yeah. Till they figure you out.
Till they figure you out and see that, you're not just, passing through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then Humboldt from there is just, you start growing, start moving stuff for people, stuff like that. Get to, right there was like, 98, 99. Because I definitely remember I got, the GDP cut in like early 99.
Yeah.
The reason why I remember early 99 is because we had that Y2K thing, the whole.
Oh, I remember Y2K.
Yeah, the whole Y2K,
People were freaking out. End of the world, right?
End of the world. The computers are going to reset. Everything's going to stop. Yeah. So that's where, that's about when it started. And it was given to me as the perp.
Wow.
It was just the Nepalese perp. So, okay, cool. Yeah, we ran it. We just, I had multiple grows myself. Yeah. And then I had a, network up there as well. Older guys who were running large operation diesel jennies in the wood. Back then when you had 150 lights, back then that was big.
Yeah.
Now that's, that's a clone room.
Right.
A mother room, really small nowadays.
Totally. I mean, 8 lighters back in the day, that was like you were doing something substantial.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you had an 8 lighter, I mean, because, we were getting 42 up to 46 a pound back then.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so the 8 lighters, have turned into 50s. But, growing up and meeting people along the way, I met, we had John here from Cutting Edge, and he was talking about guys having 100 lighters, 200 lighters, 300 lighters back in the day where they buried them underground and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, I never knew those people. Yeah. I didn't have access to those type of people. We had 8 lighters, and some people had multiple 8 lighters, or multiple 10 lighters.
Yeah.
And then my buddy had a 30 lighter in a house where he gutted the house, but 8 lighters were normal. 8 lighters, 10 lighters in a house.
You didn't need to have a large operation back then.
Not to make money. And how much money, the dollar was worth a lot more back then too.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're talking about a $4,500 pound, really that's like a $10,000 pound.
These days, yeah.
Yeah, these days.
I mean, it had a lot of buying power, definitely. I mean, I was, in my 20s and making ridiculous amounts of money at a young age, and it was a good ride. It was fun.
Yeah.
Lots of great stories to tell.
Yeah, and those were exciting times. I mean, there's a lot of cowboys back then.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
People went to jail. People went to jail for a long time for stuff. People were murdered. I had friends and people I knew that were murdered over the plant.
I always said I dealt with some pretty, scary individuals down here in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
But it was the guys up in the woods who
they didn't mess around.
No one can hear you scream.
Yeah.
They don't even got to bury you.
Right.
They just throw you out in the woods and
animals will get you.
Yeah, the animals will get you.
Right.
Don't mean to take it into a negative, tone here, but that was out there back then.
Yeah.
You know, you hear, you know, now it's like, you know, the dispensaries getting kicked in and stuff like that. You know, I'm sure, you know, we all follow, you know, different people on Instagram to see what goes on. It still amazes me that these people, you know, with cameras and everything, that people are actually kicking in grows.
Oh, Oakland it's because the police aren't doing anything about it.
Yeah.
That's why it's happening in Oakland a lot.
It's just a free-for-all.
It's a free-for-all because the response time is so long that they know they can get away with it. You know, but 20 years ago, my buddy had a warehouse in Oakland, and I remember them drilling holes through the walls to watch for when the fucking crop was done.
Really?
You know?
Wow.
And so that's been going on forever.
Yeah.
But now they're just bold, and they'll just bust in the dispensary. You know, the dispensaries aren't like they were in the beginning of rec either. You go to Harborside, and it's like a shadow of what it used to be.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they don't have a bunch of product because if they did, people would go steal it all.
Yeah, I haven't been to Harborside in a long time, but they were one of the people who I distributed to back in the Oaksterdam days.
Yeah, you go to Purple Heart?
Purple Heart, yeah, definitely.
I can't remember
Berkeley's patient group.
BPG, FBPG, you know, the upstairs area before the location that they had now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was BPG back in the day was legit. They had legit genetics. They sold clones.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of Blue Sky Cafe, Blue Sky, SR71. Yeah, the old, you know, the Oaksterdam days were great days for me. Yeah, definitely. You know, you even had like a Blue Dot days. You remember Blue Dot?
I totally remember Blue Dot. I never got that cut. I always wanted that cut, and Blue Dot was special. It was really good stuff. That was always the top shelf. It came with the Blue Dot on the bag.
You could only get an eighth. It just had a Blue Dot on it. You had to wait in line. It was on Wednesdays only. That was it. You know.
Yeah, that was good stuff. That
guy actually hit me up on IG.
Yeah, I need to get a hold of him for the show.
Yeah. I'll get you a hold of him.
I have very vivid and very fond memories of Blue Dot. I mean, Romulan too. That was another one back in the day.
Yeah, Romulan. 7 of 9.
The Shaman.
Yeah.
There was a strain called the Shaman that my buddy is the one who actually bred the version that we all got to smoke. He took the Shaman, crossed it with the Romulan, that back crossed it to the Shaman, and still called it the Shaman, but really it was the Shamulan. But either way, it was freaking amazing, and the smoke was just. We had a lot of good stuff to smoke down to the roach. That was all unique flavors. Now a lot of the stuff tastes the same.
Yeah.
You know, I would say the majority of stuff out there is like that purple candy gas.
Yeah.
You know, I'm breeding mostly purple candy gas is kind of the direction I go in for 80%. And then we got 20 that we're pushing in other different directions.
Yeah. I mean, even when I was doing, you know, production back then during 215 days, it was always like, you know, 90% production. Yeah. This is what we're selling. This is mine. Yeah. You know, these 3 lights, that's my stuff. Totally. You know, that's the head stash. Yeah. Yeah. And it was this stuff that, you know, it was just wasn't commercially like the G13 hash plant. I had a cut. It was just that one cut. It was dark. It had no bag appeal. Mm-hmm. It looked terrible in a bag, but it stuck to the bag. Yeah. It was just the nastiest, greasiest, stinkiest, foulest stuff. Yeah. No, I couldn't sell it. People were, I don't care. You know, so I just grew it for me. Right. And I just kept that for myself.
It was leafy, right?
Yeah, it was a little leafy. Yeah. Gosh, it's been so long. But I mean, I still see that flower today. Someone had posted, you know, that pheno from the G13 hash plant line, and I was like, that's it. That's the one. You found the one. Right. You know, and he's like, yeah, we know it's special. That's why we've kept it for so long. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good breeder too. Yeah. I think that has good breeder potential.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we had the Afgu. The Afgu was one that was freaking amazing. The fruity Afgu, you know, it was also a hash plant, and that was the first time when I saw Afgu for the first time. It was the one that stood out as the frostiest thing I'd ever seen up to that point in my life, where it almost looked fake, and I was like, "Did they spray stuff on this? How could it be so frosty?" Yeah, yeah. You know, and now we see that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, it's standard.
Yeah, I mean, the Oreos and the GMOs, and stuff like that, they get super
6 and 7% washers. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The big heavy duty washers for sure.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Some stuff that's just caked. It's amazing. You know, we've come a long ways, yet we haven't come as far as I think a lot of people think we have. Yeah. So, because we had great stuff to smoke in the '90s, there was amazing flower.
Oh yeah.
So
definitely
it tasted amazing, looked amazing, and the amount of diversity was significantly more than it is today.
Yeah, because it seems like, everything's just, been cross. And now we just got a bunch of purple gas.
Yeah.
It's like, where's those original ones that got buried and lost? And
I mean, I'm still getting some interesting stuff. I get red Congolese. I like that every once in a while.
Yeah.
White thorn rose, although it is purple and kind of candy-ish, it's feel-good weed. And it's really special.
Nice.
I feel like that's a good one. That's one of my favorites for the last year since I tried it. And Blue 13 is my buddy Dave's, and that's another special one that's more feel-good weed.
Okay.
I'm coming back for effect, and I feel like I went away and went to flavor.
Yeah.
And going away from flavor now, I still think flavor is super important because as a chef, as a person who gets excited about different flavors, I think that's important. But effect and the way it makes you feel is special. And if you can breed towards that and get amazing flavor, all the better.
Yeah. See, I've the high is going to be there.
Yeah.
Like mine was always flavor. I want to taste something. I want to taste something good. I want to taste something unique. I don't want to taste the same thing. And it seems like everything has just been like, that tastes like that tastes like this, that tastes like that. And so I just try to stick with those original ones and try to find them where they are, and get them from people. And a lot of people aren't doing them just because they don't hit those production numbers that they need, or, the purple gas is going to get them, X amount of dollars. And if they run this stuff, they're only going to make this much. So their whole production is purple gas right now.
Yeah.
And I understand as a business, you have to provide to what the market wants.
Yeah.
You can't force them like, no, you're going to like this. You can if you have a lot of marketing power.
Well, and there's a small percentage of us that get excited about things like Melanade or Gelinade or Lemon Tree. Even still, like if I had an ounce of, I have 50 different flavors right now that I can smoke or try.
Yeah.
But if you brought some A triple plus Melanade right now, I'd probably smoke all that before I smoked them.
Definitely.
So that stuff gets me. Same thing. Lemon Tree. I think lemon terps are kind of like not that hot right now, not that popular.
Citrus in general seems.
Citrus in general, orange, whatever.
Yeah.
But like that Lemon Tree is gassy.
Yeah,
it's got a pungency to it, and I love smoking that stuff. And maybe if I had it, I would get burnt out on it.
Yeah.
I do get burnt out on flavors.
Yeah.
Skittles seems to be one that I can keep going back to.
Yeah.
But OG as well. Like I can smoke if it's good OG, I'll smoke that
all day. Yeah, definitely.
GDP, but let's touch on your history with the GDP, there. Where you got it, and how it came about.
Okay. So again, early 99, I was working with some older guys. I was the young guy in town. Took me a while to crack that egg to get these guys to open up to me. And it was funny stories. Like these guys were roofers. They were. I was renting a house. It was a farmhouse, big house. I had a couple of rooms blown up, and I was like, oh man, the landlord's going to have these roofers coming. These guys are going to know, because I got vents coming out windows and stuff. And
right, we didn't have the filtration like we have now.
No, we didn't have it back then. I wasn't going to shut the room off or anything like that. I had 3 different rooms, all staggered at different times, and so I knew these guys were going to be on the roof. They were going to know what was up, see these windows sealed off and stuff like that. And so I was like, well, let's just don't try to hide. Let's just, be, okay, come on in, guys. Check it out. Here's what's going on. I just, showed them there. They were like, oh, what is this kid doing? And they left, and I was like, oh, man, what did I just do? And took some, gave him my number. Hey, let's keep in touch or whatever. Some time goes by. They call me up like, hey, we need your help. We've got this, this thing going on. We're not quite sure what we're doing here. And so they take me out to this redwood, forest grow in the middle of, you had to walk through this little valley down into this trail. You get up to these, into these woods, and like, here's this, this hunter lighter, with a Jenny running. And I walk in, and these guys truly had no idea what they were doing. And they had like bag seed from like, the 80s or whatever. And they had germinated all these seeds, and they were, stuff was 8 feet tall with like a 1/4 ounce on it. I was like, I'd never seen it. But I didn't, poker face. I didn't want to, shit all over these guys' scene. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know what to say, guys. And they're like, what? And I was like, cut it all down. They're like, no, we're too far in. I was like, you're going to lose money on this, and you're going to waste a lot of time. And I flipped their whole scene around, basically. GDP hadn't entered it yet. They're the guys who brought it to me. And they said, hey, this kid, he gave us this cut, just said it's the perp.
Yeah.
Like, should we give it a try? And I was like, yeah, give it to me. I mothered it out, made a couple of trays for them. We ran just 2 or 3 lights of it. And the cool thing about the GDP back then, or the perp or the Nepalese perp, is it held itself. It didn't require any trellising.
Right.
It literally held it.
Slow vegging.
No, and it was just this football. You know, it always reminded me of the Mighty Mite that I grew back in the day from Emery's, Mark Emery's catalog back then. I would call Mark up and he would, send down, anyone could call Mark back then. He used to put his phone number right in the magazine.
Right.
You call the guy and he's like, it's Mark. You're like,
yeah.
It's actually Mark. Whoa, hey.
Right.
And it, anyway, GDP had that same type of structure that I remember from Mighty Mite, just kind of held itself up. And so we'd run it. Wow, this is great. Yeah. It produced the numbers that we wanted. We were doing living soil back then. And when I first started growing, the guys who taught me, the guys with the Ganny strain, they taught me hydroponic when I was 18 years old. And I just kind of thought, well, that's how you grow cannabis indoors. That's it. There's no other way. You grow it hydroponic.
So hydroponic meaning
ebb and flow.
Ebb and flow.
Yeah, ebb and flow with with cubes back then, on slabs, on tables.
On slabs too.
Yeah, on slabs.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so it was just an ebb and flow. It wasn't even like drained to waste.
Yeah.
You had a giant reservoir under your table that would pump it up and then let it go back down. So
pretty efficient.
It was. I mean.
3-part general.
Yeah, exactly. 3-part GH.
Yeah.
That was it. pH, and that was it. That was good. It was good. And it worked and it was okay. So I always thought well, that's how you have to do it indoors. And so I go up to Humboldt County with my hydroponic gear and I'm doing all this stuff. And it took another guy coming over to my operation going, what are you doing, kid? What is going on here with all these pumps and these fans and just get all this stuff out of here. Put some beds on the floor. Put down some 2x10s, some 2x12s, line it, fill it with some good soil, spike it with a bunch of organics, and make teas.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Did that for my first time, and just the taste, the quality of the
instant
flavor.
Change in taste.
Instant change. I was like, I'm never growing hydro ever again. Yeah. And it was living soil from that day forward. And so we just started growing all the GDP in living soil, which just gave it that tightness, that color, that terpene profile. It was just, everyone knew it as soon as they saw it and smelled it.
Right.
And then we ramped up production on all of it. I had my 8 light, 810 light, another location. They had multiple locations as well. Enough to where we were, producing, anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had like 10 or 12 different dispensaries in the Bay Area, Berkeley Patients Group, Harborside, Third Floor. Third Floor is who named GDP.
Wow. And
the story behind the naming of GDP is, again, we had strains lavender, purple Urkel.
Yeah.
Purples weren't really huge back then. You had a variety of stuff on the board. You would walk into the third floor, it was Compassionate Caregivers across from the Fox Theater, downtown Oakland. And they had up on the board, lavender, purple Urkel, purple 1, purple 2, purple 3, purple 4. And that was it, because there was no names. And every time I brought it in, it sold out instantly. Just sold, gone. And just as usual, I call the guy, hey, I'm on my way in. Okay, cool. I go in, drop off. And he goes, you know what? He's like, we got to give you a new name. This purple 1, 2, or 3, it's just because yours is the best here. Yours is like the granddaddy of all purple. So we're going to call it Granddaddy Purple. And I was like, again, with the names, I was like, I don't care. You guys want to call it GDP, call it Granddaddy Purple, go ahead. Just pay me my $42 a unit.
Yeah.
And you guys have fun with that. They named it Granddaddy Purple, put it on the board as Granddaddy Purple, sold out just as quickly. And then from then on, every other dispensary that I went to, yeah, this is Granddaddy Purple, because back then, CCG, the third floor, was the dispensary.
Yeah.
Above Harborside, even at the time.
Yeah.
Harborside was like, second place to them.
Right. They
had like the most clones, the most of everything, basically. The guy who owned CCG at the time, Larry.
Yeah.
He was like, from the rumor was he was a Canadian Alaskan bookie who came down here, and he wanted to be the McDonald's of medical marijuana, and he was just quickly trying to open up places all over the place.
Yeah, throwing money at it. Just hoping something sticks. It did stick for a little while. Unfortunately, Larry had cancer. He ended up passing away.
legal problems came about. You know, I think the manager of the place, Sharky, he ended up like doing some time, I think, because all of this mess kind of got left on him.
Right.
CCG, like, it was like I was like Norm walking into Cheers.
Yeah.
You know, everyone knew as soon as I walked in.
It was that feeling there for sure. So I used to go, and it was the badge of honor to get your card. You know, I went to Dr. Frank Lucido and got my card in the 90s, late 90s. And then afterwards, you would go to the third floor and you would fill out the paperwork and they would call and verify and then you would get your card.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal back then.
Yeah, they had the card press center.
The card press and everything. Yeah. It was a big deal to have a card from there.
Yeah.
And the lower the number, you could tell what number of members because they did it in order. So like if you were in the early hundreds, like that meant you'd been doing it for a while. Yeah,
yeah. Like my mom was one of the original, you know, Mecaria patients, you know. Yeah. And he was one of the originals who was, you know, putting those out there. Yeah. You know, back in the day. Yeah, and I would always get my card just because, you know, I was a vendor.
Right.
You know, and there was a dispensary in San Lorenzo off Hesperian. They always just had every year they would just have my script for me. Yeah. You know, I would show up to drop off, you know, product. Here's your script for the year. Just sign here. Like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, it was interesting because it was a big scam. And you'd have to pay more money if you wanted to get the 199 plant. Yeah. So you could get the regular, which I think was 10 plants, or you could pay extra money to get the 99 federal. Yeah. And it was the difference of like $200 or $350. Yeah.
Yeah, none of us did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Listen, the guys up north, they would just, you know, stack scripts. Oh, yeah. They would pay you for your script so they can just have another 99, another 99. It was like
have a stack that
just a stack, yeah.
Well, and we did that too. So we would put them on the doors of the grows, right? And so, but we were stupid because we wouldn't, you know, it's like we all got busted at the same time. We'd be fucked. Yeah. But like we all used our scripts together, so we'd have a whole door covered with everybody's script. But we all had all our grows had all the scripts on all the doors. Yeah. You know, so
doubled up.
Oh
yeah. Everywhere. Oh yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, good times. Good times, but it was way more illegal back then. You know, you could go to prison for an A-lighter.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, I always like to, you know, say I'm a pre-97 grower. Yeah. You know, like I was growing back in the day where if you got caught, like you were doing 10. Yeah. You know, what I was doing at the time, like my first offense was going to be 10. Yeah. You know, and then when the 215 came around, it was like, oh, here's a little cushion, a little buffer, you know, but still, I mean, some of the numbers I was playing with, it was like, yeah, they're still going to want to talk to you.
Yeah, for sure. And if it's federal, then you're fucked. Right? Yeah. Like even state, you know, I had my friend Josh, he's going to be on the podcast soon, Josh Freeman, and Silverback Growilla. He created Growilla Nutrients, but like he got robbed by the fucking cops. Like they pulled him over and they'd been following him and they took his money.
Oh yeah, standard. Yeah, that happened a lot back then.
He didn't get arrested, didn't go to jail, but they took his money.
One of the coolest ones, I you know, dealing with the cops, I got pulled over coming down, you know, driving the Gauntlet 101. Oh yeah. You know, from Ukiah until you hit the Bay Area, you're just a sheep waiting for the wolves to get you. You know?
Once you're in Sonoma, like we were saying, you're probably okay.
That's when I was like, okay, 75 now.
But Hopland, when you're going through Hopland, there's cops. There's still cops to this day that are parked out there,
Laytonville,
just
Willis,
profiling
Hopland.
people. Yeah, they say they're not profiling, but they're 100% profiling people. Yeah, and once you make it past Hopland, you're a little safer. Then once you make it to Santa Rosa, like you're cool.
You're cool. You're safe now. Yeah, you're in the mix. You know, and I was driving down, and I always did my runs first thing in the morning. You know, just a worker on my way to work. You know, I just put on the flannel, fit the profile or whatever. Right. And for some reason this time I had to come down late in the evening. Sun was going down, had to turn the headlights on driving, you know. I'm going along and all of a sudden, boom, red and white, boom. I was like, oh no, instantly, boom, 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 here we go. Yeah. Here we go. And I had a box in the back. And cop comes up and how you doing, sir? You know why I pulled you over? No idea, sir. What's going on? Your lights are out. Oh, really? I didn't even know that. He goes, yeah, you probably blew a fuse or something. But here's what I'm going to do. He's like, you get behind me or you get in front of me. I'm going to escort you all the way to the truck stop in Ukiah. You're going to get a fuse and you're going to pop that fuse in and you're going to go about your way. Yeah. And I was like, I can't believe the CHP just, you know, escorted me and my box, you know, to Ukiah for, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I just thought, you know, Many times, there's another time I was in Willits and I'm going through Willits and this high school girl pulls out in front of me. And at the time I had imported hash. I had Freedom for Afghanistan, Northern Alliance hash on me, like a half a block or something.
Yeah.
Federal.
Yeah.
Instant federal. And she hits me, boom. And I always knew, like, if I get busted, it's not going to be because of me. It's going to be some outside force that I can't control. Yeah. And here it is. Boom. This girl plows into me. I've got, I don't know how much money on me in this block of hash. And I didn't have any flour on me at the time, so that was probably good because you couldn't smell anything. The same thing. I'm like, just playing it cool. Like, I was just in an accident and you didn't just hit a car that had a lot of money and hash in it. And same thing. I'm asking the guy, well, what? My car I couldn't get out of there. He's like, well, you got to call your own tow people and da-da-da. I'm talking to this guy and I'm like, God, please don't ask to, look at my car or anything like that because it's over, And I was, all right, thank you, officer. And went about my way with my car was all messed up. But I was like, just get out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. So back to GDP. So, yeah, GDP. Bring it to third floor. They name it. I continue to keep distributing to all the different clubs. Again, there's 10 to 12 clubs at the time.
And it grew in popularity. And I remember when it was at the third floor. And it was popular there, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. PCC Collective off of Berkeley, off Telegraph, had some killer back in the day. Mm-hmm. Eric and Dave, that were the original owners, were there. I'm still mad at those guys, by the way. But over some Blue Dream. Okay. Over some promised, I promise you I'll buy 5 pounds. And I brought it in and they're like, sorry, we can't buy it. And,
that's kind of when things started turning really business. A lot of these, all of a sudden, these dispensaries wanted me to start filling out paperwork. Yeah. And I was like, no. And then Harborside started with consignment.
Yeah, they wanted a 2-week consignment, right?
Yeah.
Not for everybody, but for a lot of people.
Right. And
it was to me too.
I thought I was kind of special. I was like, no, I get cashed out. You guys can do consignment with other people. No, this is just standard. This is how we do this is how we do it now. And when all the clubs started to realize that they had the power, they didn't have to cash you out. I was pushing to my guys on the street. Yeah. And I was front to them at way less than what I was getting cashed out for at a club. Right. And so all my street guys, sorry guys, these clubs are cashing me out like that. Totally. And then when they started, realizing like, oh, we don't have to cash these guys out because there was just so many people all of a sudden, the consignment thing started. And that's when I was like, that's when I was done with, Berkeley Patients Group. That's when I was done with, and then CCG, third floor, they had moved down the street. Some new people had opened it up, and it was kind of sketchy. And, hey, we want you to put your name and all this information. No. Right. And that's when I kind of stepped away from that. And that was, that was 2005, 2006. And by then, by about 2003, OG came around to the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. And that's just what killed GDP. Yeah. Killed it. Absolutely. It almost felt like overnight.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that. Overnight, it went. So there was like Purple Cadillac, GDP, Purple Urkel, Lavender. And when they were hot, they were hot. And then almost overnight, the only place that would buy them would maybe be Richmond. You could pull it off in Richmond. Richmond was still buying a lot of GDP, but like they weren't at any of the dispensaries. Nobody wanted them anymore. And it was like overnight, it was gone.
The price started dropping quick.
We used to grow the GDP in octagons. And the reason we did that was because it was a slow veg. The reason I don't like growing GDP is that for me, it was a 31-day vegging plant. Yeah. So it would...
Hates nitrogen.
Dude, and it hates nitrogen, but it would stay short. So it was really good for octagons. And my buddy figured this out, and then he told me, and I was like, fuck, son of a bitch. We could get these huge yields in these octagons because you're growing vertical. And so under each plant, there's 26 lights, or 26 plants under each light, right? And so it was 4 stacks, 4 tiers, and they were all growing towards it. Well, if you grow ChemDog, you get a wall of larf. Yeah. But then you grow GDP, and it's like you get perfect buds, and they're huge buds, and you could flip it after a week, and then you get this amazing yield, and you get over 5 pounds. So it was over 2.5 pounds with GDP in the octagon.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I made the mistake a few times of running a train wreck in the same room with Granddaddy Purple.
Yeah, bad idea.
Yeah, bad idea. Train wreck can't hold itself up. It's a freak of nature.
Yeah, it's like spaghetti's eye.
Yeah, one day I walked in, and even the trellising that I had just had everything had fallen over onto the GDP. I was like, oh no. Okay, don't grow train wreck and GDP in the same beds.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of train wreck grown, and it always looks like it's gonna die. You know, even when it's healthy, it grows in clusters, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you
yeah.
get these
Little
golf balls growing up, and so
yeah.
it doesn't look quite like it's super healthy, even though it is.
Yeah.
Even though when it's healthy, and it comes out amazing. I like
Yeah.
good train wreck. That's another one. Like Jack and train wreck, you don't really see anymore, but
Yeah.
back in the day, that train wreck was super strong.
Yeah.
There's a reason they called it train wreck.
Yeah. There's a guy in Santa Cruz who still has that original cut.
Wow.
And he's based his company off of it, and he's done quite well with it, and he holds it tight. I have done everything I can.
Yeah.
Come on,
I believe
Pac,
it was
man,
bred by
give it up.
Tyson in Humboldt.
Okay.
He's the original breeder of that. So back to GDP. Where do you think, what's the origin of GDP that you know of?
Yeah, there's always been that story going around about Chris on Salmon Creek.
Mm-hmm.
I knew people out on Salmon Creek. I almost moved out to Salmon Creek. I had grown Big Bud. I had grown Purple Urkel. And there was no way.
There's no way that it's related to purple. Well, Purple Urkel, maybe.
Maybe.
Grape Ape, definitely not.
Right.
Right. They're two totally, and yeah, they have a little bit of purple. Grape Ape has a little bit of purple. GDP would black out.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Like
And so-
magenta. Like the
magenta,
deeper
yeah.
you went in, the darker it got.
Yeah. It was,
Yeah.
and I like Grape Ape too. Don't get me wrong. I grew Grape Ape back in the day, and I really liked it. And it was a big producer, and it would grow these huge buds. But as far as genetically, I don't think that they were related.
No.
Now, I've had people, friends of mine that are like, no, they're definitely like sisters. And it's like, I don't think that's true. Now, I could see the origin of Purple Urkel being maybe bred into GDP as like one of the parents. I mean, to me, that was more possible than the whole Grape Ape theory.
Oh, yeah.
Yet, I'm still curious, and maybe it was a bag seed or a land race.
Yeah.
Nepalese land race.
Yeah. Again, it came to me as the Nepalese perp or the perp, and so I just brought it down to the clubs as the perp.
Yeah.
It was probably, perp number 1, 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it was that week.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until they were like, we need to make yours stand out because it's way better than all the other purples we got.
Yeah.
So they slapped a name on it, and here we are talking about it.
Well, and we've had guests talk about it being their strain that made them they made the success they're at now. We had Lou Starmazo, and his dispensary was all about the GDP.
Oh, really?
All about it. He's all about it. Still loves talking about it, and it's changed people's lives. It was one of those strains that has impact as much as I feel like GDP has as much impact as any of the other big strains.
Yeah.
Whether it's Blue Dream or OG Kush, and we could argue which ones were more popular or whatever, but like it had just as much impact because when it was hot, it was extremely hot. It was the one to get.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't get it unless you knew the right people. I mean, and if it was at the dispensary, it would sell out before you would get it.
Yep.
I remember you could look online for a while. I'm not sure if it was Harborside or BPG, but you could look online at their menu.
Mm-hmm.
And you could look online, and this is back when the internet isn't what it is today.
Yeah,
you could look online and it'd be like, oh, here's the menu. You go down and try to buy it, whether it was clones or clones or flour. And man, sometimes it would be sold out before you'd even get there.
Yeah.
And I'd be looking at it before they open and then try to get there. And then it's
wait in line.
You got to wait in line. Well, BPG was an interesting place. So BPG, there was like the chairs for all the vendors. And that's where I met.
Yeah.
I met people
the vendor
out there.
area, the smoking lounge.
Totally.
Yeah. Big glass front.
Yeah, I mean, there's been it's good times. I mean, I really liked BPG back in the day. I think I haven't been to BPG in a long time.
Same. It's been
ATN
15, 18 years, something like that.
Yeah, I got to go visit ATN. I think he's still over at BPG.
Yeah, nice.
Good people.
I stopped with the dispensaries, I guess, a long time ago. 2005, 2006, and that's when I let the cut out. Not saying I'm the only one who had it.
Yeah.
So there was
did
other
you
people
sell clones of it?
No, I didn't give a clone out to anyone. I had people offering me, 10 racks.
Oh yeah.
No, I kind of, was like, no, I'm going to hold on to this. I didn't realize like how, important it was until I was like, okay, cool. It's got this little buzz around it. People like Granddaddy Purple.
Yeah.
And then was E40 and Keak Sneak.
Yeah.
Keak the Sneak were like started rapping about it. I went, oh wow, this is something here.
Yep.
And it was also right about that time when the OG, came into town and pretty much and all of a sudden the price started dropping. And then I realized like, well, no one really cared. Even my network of people, they were like, no, we're not, no, because we can get this much for the OG.
Right.
We're not doing the purple anymore. We're transferring everything over to this OG Kush cut now.
Yeah, there was a point where you couldn't sell purple to save your life. If you wanted to.
Yeah.
Blue Dream was like that too. When Blue Dream was hot, it was really hot.
Yeah.
But it was so easy to grow, and the cut got out there.
Yeah.
Everybody grew it. Everybody and their mothers grew it because it would yield so much.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's completely flooded on the market. I'm going over to PCC off a Telegraph around Christmas time, expecting to get a stack of cash so I can buy Christmas presents and pay my bills.
Yeah.
And they're like, sorry, we can't buy it. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't buy it?
What do you mean? Yeah.
They take me in the back and they're like, dude, you wanted 32. Look what we got for 18.
Yeah.
And they pull up, and it wasn't bad. It was actually really good.
Yeah.
It wasn't the level that I had.
Yeah.
You know, we were growing in soil back then.
Yeah.
And, you know, and Blue Dream just looks amazing in the bag.
Yep.
Same thing with GDP. It's another one that looks amazing in the bag.
Yeah.
It was the first one where I was like, Purple, you open the bag, it's loud, it hits you in the face.
Right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when it's done right, it's super amazing.
Yeah. And my whole thing, again, I focused on terpenes.
Yeah.
You know, like I wasn't, trying to, pump it to get more THC, to get more volume. Like, no, I want a flavor.
Right.
So I was, adding, back then, I had run trials of rooms with, and I was an Earth Juice guy back in the day.
Uh-huh.
Loved their products. Loved the Catalyst. It was like a wheat brand molasses finisher.
Right.
And so I had, side-by-side rooms. All right, we're going to flush this room. We're going to run this room with the Catalyst. And we're going to run this room without the Catalyst and these other little additives that I would put in. And there was a different, I would do a blind taste test with friends. Yeah. Taste this one, tell me which one's better.
A/B testing is the best way.
And it was always the one that had, that extra oomph, that I felt brought that taste and smell profile out.
Did you ever use Dark Energy or Liquid Karma?
Yes. Yeah.
Those two were like, they're nostalgia for me.
You just, whoa.
Yeah, that's the old school nutrients.
Yeah.
Well, if you were growing in the late 90s, those were the secrets. Like,
Yeah.
Liquid Karma and Dark Energy.
Yeah.
Dark Energy is now banned in California.
No, really?
Yeah, and it's sea kelp. It's not a bad product.
Right.
But yeah, it's a PGR.
Okay.
Like it's a naturally occurring PGR.
Naturally occurring PGR.
Banned.
Yeah.
Banned in California.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, because people were using that as a foliar. I mean, people still to this day use, seaweed as a foliar PGR.
Yeah, that Dark Energy was special. It was like when we started using that, we're on to something.
That's funny you bring that up, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it just made the weed louder. It was like, it smelled louder. It looked better. It was like, holy shit. Because we used to monocrop too a lot of times. So it'd be like, we'd only grow one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And so if you were growing that over and over, it's like the next time you're like, what the fuck? How is that so much better?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was lucky. I lived, right near McClellan Mountain soil. Yeah. Up in Humboldt when I was up there. And so I would have them do special blends for me, because I was practically their neighbor. I mean, they did big runs. They're long gone now. Yeah. They were a water company that, all of a sudden like, hey, let's, start making this soil for all these guys around here. Yeah. And again, we would put, Dark Energy into it and spike it with some guano and, all the good stuff. We'd go down to Spare Time Organics and Willits and just load up the truck with, $400, $500, dollars worth of organics, take it back up.
Yeah.
And that was back then, I wasn't doing, it was, even though it was like living soil, it was one and done. Mm-hmm. Like now, the living soil beds that I did, I leave that soil there. I keep feeding that soil. Like, you feed the soil.
Used to get rid of your soil.
Yeah.
Each time.
I would start over every time. And it wasn't until I met like an ergonomist who explained like, no, you don't have to do that. You're wasting so much money.
Yeah.
And even then, like I was, the soil gets better. Pound of this. And he'd be like, you need 72 grams of that.
Yeah.
54 grams of that. That's it. Like, really? He goes, it's not doing anything bad. It's just wasteful.
Yeah.
You're just wasting a lot of money. You only need a little bit of that and a little bit of that, not the whole bag.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. And, and so I stuck with the living soil thing for a long time.
Yeah. I used to do teas. We got a vortex brewer at one point, but I used to do teas in 5-gallon buckets with pantyhose.
Yeah. So, that was standard.
Tea, the old hum tea recipe from back then.
I used to go to the thrift stores and I would raid the pantyhose drawer, and then people look at me funny. I'm like, no, I'm making tea.
Yeah, I'm not a weirdo.
Yeah. Just pack that thing full of earthworm castings and guano and all kinds of stuff and shake it up.
Yeah, get it bubbled. And, good stuff.
Let it brew for a little while.
Then the Vortex brewers were a game changer, where you could do they made them in 5 and I think 10 gallon. Mm-hmm. They probably had bigger ones, but we used to go to Berkeley Indoor Gardens and that's what they had.
Oh yeah. Berkeley Indoor Gardens was like the spot. Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people use that place and have fond memories.
Tomatoes.
Yeah. You had to use the language.
Yeah. It was all code. You're like, they wouldn't talk to you if you
said. They would sell you Avid.
Yeah.
In a little vial for $20 under the counter.
Yeah.
And I'm a pesticide safety guy nowadays. I have a license with the state as an applicator.
Wow.
And so I do pesticide safety training.
Yeah.
And I look back at some of the practices from 20 years ago and I just go, oh God. Just knowing what I know now, like, applying Avid with flip-flops on and these shorts.
Dude, it's so bad.
So bad.
And there was so many things. Like, well, at first it was just pretty much Avid that people started using.
Yeah.
And there was like, I don't remember the trifecta, but there was like the 3 you would use because they would get immune to the one. And so you'd use Avid, Judo, and one of the other ones. And they're all just
systemic, gnarly.
Systemic, yeah, like won't pass testing now if you're going to use them, you know?
No. I know guys that will still use it. I mean, if they're just trying to hold on to something, it's not in production. It's never it's never going to see the public. Public's never going to see it. It's a mother of a genetic that they don't want to die, but they don't want to have to maintain it and baby it.
I might be wrong, but I believe Avid is a translaminate and not systemic.
Right.
So it actually coats. So like the next generation or generations after that, it's not bad in that sense, but it would be bad to smoke anything that had any sort of Avid on it. Like, it makes me cringe a little bit that people have to use that stuff still.
Yeah. Well, it's literally, again, it's and it's out of the plant. They've tested.
Yeah.
You know, they've sent it in. It's clean.
Right.
You know, after 6 months, it was just one of those things. We don't want to dump a bunch of maintenance on this plant, on these groups right here of mothers.
Sure.
You know, I have friends who run nurseries and stuff like that. One of them has like a very large library.
Yeah.
You know, they hold a lot of my stuff. They hold a lot of breeder stuff.
Nice.
And some of those, triangle cushes, some of those original with Afgoo, Super Silver Haze.
Yeah.
And they hold on to those for guys like me. Like I can call them up and say, hey, I need this, this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
If you can get it to me in a couple of months, I'm working with a new male.
Well, yeah, we got tissue culture for that now. We don't have that. You know, I feel like that's such a game changer for banking genetics and having a large library of clean, as far as especially the clean side of it. Because before it used to take 30 lights, and now we can do it with racks and little dishes.
Yeah. Take away all that space and just put it onto one shelf.
It's amazing. Yeah. And a big time game changer in that sense, especially the clean aspect of it is. Because I remember we had genetics that were really good and we ran them for a while and all of a sudden they weren't performing. And so we were like, no, we got to get rid of it. We must have cloned it too many times. That's when we thought a lot. We've outcloned it.
Yeah,
it's got to go.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Too many clonal generations. It must be bad.
Oh, and I would keep mothers for, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, just
the same plant you'd be cutting clones off for 2-3 years.
Yeah. Just, the GDP, I would just, occasionally I would pull it out of the bag, hack off half the roots.
Yeah.
Hack off, 3/4 of the foliage, the upper, and then hack that down, put it back into fresh soil.
Yeah.
And let it rejuvenate. I mean, I would keep mothers forever to the point where I was like, I probably should switch these out every once in a while.
Yeah.
But you're working with, space restraints, back then, especially, we were just in houses.
Well, I honestly thought when I was younger that the more times you clone it, the worse the genetics get. That it does something bad to the genetics.
Yeah, that was something we all thought back then. Yeah, we all thought that.
I mean, I think that was pretty common knowledge.
Yeah. We didn't know what we were doing. There was no book for this. You had Ed Rosenthal and Jorge, and a couple of guys writing
Mel
some books.
Frank, it was like the 3 that...
and I read all those books when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, and I had cats. It wasn't until I started reading Rodell.
Yeah.
Organics, where it all just dropped into place for me. It all made sense. A lot of the cannabis growing books just seemed confusing.
Well, and I think there was something that you wanted to have a novel approach to back then. And I think these guys were scratching the surface of it and they had a lot of stuff that was right. But there was also stuff on, I'm not saying cinnamon is bad. I think cinnamon has its place with IPM, but cinnamon for this or that. And then I would try it and I'd be like, this shit doesn't work, dude. Not like they say it does in the book.
Yeah.
But the concepts, I think overall the concepts were good. The fact that I just wrote a breeding book. So I don't want to hate on anybody that's ever put the time and effort to write a book because it's so much work. It's so much energy. Yeah. And I feel like these guys, especially, Rob Clark in 1980 with Marijuana Botany and then Mel Frank, we've got even Ed and Jorge and then Kenny Morrow and all these guys tried to write the best book they possibly could.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's all about, I mean, it's almost like art, right? So you're writing this thing and you do the best job you can, and then you got to put it out to the world and see how the world accepts it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
We've come so far since then. I'm not trying to,
oh no,
back
for
then.
Sure. Back then it was better than nothing.
It was better than nothing.
But it was hard to find those books. It's not like you could just get them anywhere. Telegraph Avenue, they used to have a street fair.
Oh yeah.
And you could always get them. There was a table with cannabis books.
Always.
Mushroom, cannabis, all kinds of
all
stuff.
That. I had all the cannabis, stickers you could buy back then. Had them on my car. And
there was a dude that made seashell pipes with resin. There was like resin seashell pipes. Even it had a magnifying glass one where it was a bong that had seashells. And that guy must have passed. Very,
on Telegraph.
Yeah, on Telegraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I would love if somebody knew how to get a seashell pipe to get one, because I don't have any of the ones. I have a big collection of pipes, but I never saved any of those.
Oh, I still have an original proto.
Yeah, those original prototypes are amazing. Like the prototype was a great concept.
Yeah, I still have my prototype from back then, sitting in the drawer. Don't use it.
No,
I look back and like, wow, we used to smoke out of this like it was.
But yeah, I have the original vaporizers that have the element, and where you have a tube, and it's like hand blown glass tube in a box, and then you put it on the element.
Oh yeah,
you vaporize before the volcano.
Yeah, it was when Volcano came out. That was like, whoa, this is new.
Yeah,
but I just couldn't understand. I would show up to a friend's house, and he'd have jars like this of just tap out. And to me, it was like, wait a minute. So wait, you're just melting. It didn't make sense to me. It's like, no, I'm burning my weed. You're just wasting a bunch of weed. Yeah. Well, he would take his jars and make brownies with it. He always made sure, but it just didn't make sense.
We used to throw it out, but we used to have big friggin' long, especially because we trimmed a lot, right? Because there was a time where all my friends, not all my friends, but my friends that grew, we all needed trimming done, and we all harvested at different times. So it'd be like, you go trim for free. A lot of times we didn't pay anybody to trim. You would trim your friend's stuff, and we'd hang out. We were watching In Living Color DVDs.
Yeah.
And and we had the big we used the volcano so much that we melted the fucking top to it.
Oh, really?
Like literally, but we'd get the big bags, and then someone got smart. I was like, dude, you can't use multiple flavors. So each flavor has to have its own bag. And that was a game changer, because then it tasted like that strain.
Right.
And so if you had one bag for each flavor, and we didn't have, we had diversity, so there was a lot of different stuff, but I grew this, and my buddy grew this, and my other buddy grew this. And so we had like a handful of stuff that we knew was top notch that we really wanted to smoke, because there was the work weed, and then there was like the shit that we like smoking ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. You brought up Kenny, Kay and Sharky from back in the day. And one of the first times I had honey oil was from those guys.
Nice.
And I just remember it was this new stuff what is this? We were getting the old hookah coals. Yeah. And we were just burning a hookah coal.
That was the original dab.
You just hit it on there with a little glass tube or something.
Yeah.
And brought that into, I had roommates at the time. I was like 19 or 20, and brought that around, and it changed people's lives. Yeah. I had a few friends who were, they were heroin addicts back then, and they took a dab for the first time. They were like, whoa. Just sent them soaring. They're like, I've never been this high off of H. Yeah. Let alone, whoa. Like, and one person like literally used that to kick heroin.
That's amazing.
Was just honey oil. Because, she felt like, well, this is giving me the same effect, and when I ran out of it, I realized like, oh, wow, that's how bad heroin addiction can be. Because she was like pissed. Yeah. That she could not get this anymore from me, and she was going to relapse. And I was like, oh, sorry, I'll try, Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that coal tech was the original way before they had rigs. Yeah. And we used to smoke it on coal with a straw. Yeah. You heat the coal up. Yep. And you would have your little dabber or whatever. You touch it there and hit it with the straw. And amazing stuff.
Like our parents before us with the hot knives.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, I used hot knives, too. Okay. Those were like the legendary hot knives, Those would take you to another level. Yep. Especially with the traditional hash where you burn it and you would just get a cloud of smoke. Oh, yeah. Your eyes would instantly turn red. If you didn't choke, you would be completely friggin' ripped off your ass. Yeah.
Kenny and them, they had some good strains back then. I remember they had the sweet one, B1. They had a purple.
Purple Kush. K's Purple Kush.
K's Purple Kush. And I was lucky enough through a mutual friend to get a tray of clones from those guys. Wow. Didn't realize at the time that I should have held on to this stuff. This is all new. I didn't even know. I think maybe Kay and Sharkey had already been doing some articles in High Times, maybe at the time. But even still to this day, I don't pay attention to things in the cannabis industry like I used to. I mean, there's people who live, eat, and breathe. They read everything, watch everything.
It's too much now. It's sensory overload.
It's sensory overload. I've been doing this for 30 years now. I've got kids, and right now, like, I've already sacrificed a lot of family time, a lot of time with my wife and my children for this plant.
Right.
And I've stepped away in the last year and a half, and I'm like, my kids are only going to be, they're 10 and 12 right now. They're only going to be that age once.
Right.
My son's going to get to that age. I remember when I was 15.
Yeah.
Oh, bye, Dad. I got my friends now.
Right.
And I missed a lot of that because I was always gone. I was working all the time. I was hustling. I was just so immersed in the cannabis industry that for this last year and a half of not working in the cannabis industry, it's like, wow, there's a whole nother world out there.
This is what the plant gives too. It takes and it gives, and it's the most amazing thing, right?
Yeah. And so finally I was just like, I got laid off, and I was expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 7 years, I've worked for 6 different companies. And so when that layoff came, I was like, well, I'm just going to spend time with my family. I've been going so hard for so long. And the wife was just, she's the one who actually said, like, you've been doing this, you've been going hard for a long time.
Yeah.
Why don't you take some time off? And I was like, say no more, honey.
Yeah.
I took some time off, and I gave all my plants away, shut my rooms down.
Wow.
I literally have nothing going at the moment. And it's probably been like one of the best years of my life.
Yeah.
I've just totally stepped away. I'll always love the plant. I'll always love the industry. I'll always love the people. But right now I'm focused on my children, my wife, and myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's been great. I always was a fisherman. I always liked fishing here and there. But in this last year, you give me time off. I mean, I've got rods in the car right now.
Yeah.
As soon as I leave here, I'm going to go hit a lake.
Nice.
Like that's my zen. And for me, something about bass fishing, don't mean to steer the conversation to that, but it's this, it scratches that same itch that I had as a grower,
right?
Trying to figure out this plant, trying to figure out this fish.
Yeah.
What did I do right? Where did I use this color bait? Did I do this? Totally. It's that same feeling of like accomplishment. Like I'm going to conquer this thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of filled that void for me.
Yeah. Nice.
And so a lot of my focus, again, stepping away from the industry, family, fishing, just life. Because my life has been this plant, this community, this industry.
Yeah.
It's come before everything. As a grower, you miss holidays, you miss vacations, you miss those little things. I can't, no matter how many times I would try to not have to harvest at Christmas, it always landed like right around Christmas time where I was like, sorry, I can't go. Well, what? Why? Because you got to harvest again? Like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So you would have
some people just don't understand.
Yeah. It's like, you're a farmer.
Yeah.
It's 7 days a week.
It's great in the sense that especially when you're younger, that you learn about prioritizing something that's bigger than yourself and more important than you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us feel like we're so important, and it kind of gets rid of that ego to a degree. Like if you want to grow good flower, you prioritize that plant first. It comes before everything.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, families.
When I met my wife, when I first started dating her, and this has gone with, just about every girl I've ever dated, like, just so you know who I am.
Right.
But just so you know, like, this will always come before you.
Yeah.
If you can hang with that, then we can move forward with this.
Yeah.
And my wife, I've put her through some things, in the cannabis industry. We almost moved up to Salmon Creek when she was, 8 months pregnant with my first son. Wow. And that guy backed out on me practically when I already packed up my house here. And it was like this, she's a square. She's not from the cannabis industry. She's not, and here she is. She's like, sure, honey, let's do this. This is your passion. Let's go. And then that happened, and it was like, ooh, that was a big one. I mean, to put her through that, and for her to still, stick around was like, wow, I got me a trooper here.
I know the feeling. I have the same thing.
Yeah.
I heard my wife through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Over the years, she's had to suffer when I suffered.
Yep.
And she's accepted the good times and the bad times. And we've had a lot of good times. We've had some bad times too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and I think that's life, but that also builds character.
Yeah.
I think people are afraid of bad times, but like no risk, no reward.
Yeah.
There's a certain level, what's the Latin saying? Fortune favors the brave.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the Latin translation, but Brian will put it up on the screen. But, there's risk whenever you're doing stuff, there's risk.
Yeah.
So it's about like the level of risk you're willing to take. And my wife has gone through the trenches with me. She's not in the industry either, but she's had to put up with all the bullshit that goes with the industry.
Yeah.
The lack of holiday. And also I was a chef too. So like along with that, where it's like, okay, the kitchen comes first. And then it was like, I had plants and the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's one of those things. It's
like, you start to like, you realize like, wow, I'm pretty selfish.
Yeah.
At least I did, just like, this is pretty selfish. I mean, I literally neglected, my, personal, my close family, my wife and my children, but then my parents, my brother, just everyone around me suffered, they reaped some of the benefits of it, but it was like, they would have rather had me there for that holiday, for that vacation, for that, even that weekend getaway, whatever it was. And I always put this, first, and it's kind of been nice to step away and not miss things anymore.
Getting the balance back.
Yeah. And go on vacation with your family and
be able to go for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Things like that. I get offers for, jobs out of state.
Yeah.
And they're, pay handsomely. But I'm not going to drag my family through that. I'm not going to move my family out of state to go be somewhere that might only be for a year.
Yeah.
It's going to be a nice chunk of money, but it's only for a year. Mm-hmm. I'll take, something close to home that's consistent, doesn't have to pay me 6 figures, and that's where I've just kind of stayed now. I've had offers to go work in other states and run big operations and I've, no matter what price they've thrown at me, I just won't go. I won't drag my family through the cannabis industry because it's so volatile.
Yeah, I'll do consulting in other places, but I'm
That's
based in the Bay Area indefinitely.
Yeah.
I have my network of friends, although I would love to live part of the year in Seattle because I have my network of friends up there. They're amazing, amazing people. The weather up there right now in Seattle is freaking phenomenal. The food is good. And then same thing with Spain. I wouldn't mind spending some time every year in Spain.
Okay.
Spain's great.
Nice.
Amsterdam, I have good friends too. But if you're in Spain, you can just jump over to Amsterdam in a couple hours.
I've never been to any of those places. I did just visit Ireland and Northern Ireland. Got to do some trout fishing there, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
Tapped in to see what the industry is like over there. They just got some medical going on. Found a couple of shops that sold seed.
Yeah.
Went in, talked with the guys, and I had some regular seed on me, regular. Mm-hmm. And, I was asking them about how come you guys got all the autos? And I never understood why Europeans were so heavy on the autos. And then when they explained the climate and the grow season, they're like, we got 60 days.
Yeah.
We don't have we can't do full term like you guys do,
And autos for a beginner and someone who wants to see fast results, because I think a lot of people now are like, they want instant gratification, right? Whatever it is. And autos will give you that instant gratification because from germination, you can have finished product that's good with these better autos.
Mm-hmm.
You can have good product in 65 days.
Yeah.
You can be smoking in less than 3 months. You can have cured out product.
Yeah.
Right. You can't do that with anything else from seed.
Yeah.
And the genetics have gotten better and better and better with autoflower.
Absolutely. I mean, 20 years ago, if you would have brought up autos or ruderellas, I'd have laughed at you.
It was all time for that. It was like hay.
Yeah, it was like
horrible. Hey, if you want to smoke hay.
It was a foundation to start from.
Yeah.
If that was a direction you wanted to go.
Yeah.
But for me, it was production. Back then, like I wasn't trying to make seeds. That was for the older guys who had made their money. They were just now R&D, just playing around, making things here and there, having fun. Mine, it was work.
I think before our time, it was all about making seeds for the next year, right? Even especially up in Humboldt. Right?
Yeah.
So like in the 60s, late 60s, 70s, 80s, early probably 90s, a lot of farmers would, they were making seeds for that next year. So they'd make a handful of seeds.
Yeah.
They were breeding those varieties that were up there. They're almost land race varieties from there. Depending on what you define as a land race. But some of these guys made them for 20 generations. They were making seeds every year.
Yeah.
But when cloning got popular, especially in the 90s, it's like we were growing a lot from clone. Yeah, we'd pop seeds, but we'd clone it and then we'd share the clones.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the thing with, back to the GDP cut.
Yeah.
There was no mount. It was a cut.
Right.
And so
Clone only.
Clone only.
Yeah.
You know, and so when people, you know, and I wasn't one of those people. As a matter of fact, I had a person tell me, you know, if you know, because I wasn't a forum guy.
Yeah.
I wasn't on the forums back in the day. And if I wasn't on the forums, then I wasn't part of the cannabis community.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, dude. And like, I was putting 100,000 miles a year on my truck, driving boxes up and down the West Coast.
Right.
Okay. I didn't have time to sit in front of a computer and argue the finer points of growing.
A lot of that is just ego anyway.
Yeah, you know, and so when people would hit me up back in the day and tell me that they had, you know, a Granddaddy Purple male, and I was just like, okay, you know, like, sure, that's fine.
I mean, there's been a lot of origin stories about the GDP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories, you know, there's been a lot of folklore about genetics all around.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think we didn't have the recorded history of 20 years and before. Without the internet, was I heard this from this person and heard it from this person. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the guys were in the shadows. They didn't want to be known. Even if they were the real breeder, they didn't want to be known as the real breeder.
Yeah.
They didn't want any credit. They wanted the money.
That's it.
Right.
That was my mentality. Yeah, that was my mentality back then. You know, there was the, you know, 215 compassion, you know, thing going on. My mom was a 215. She actually, you know, she wasn't a cannabis consumer at all.
Yeah.
But she campaigned for 215. She believed in the plant and just not just the medicine part of it, the hemp.
Yeah.
She was like, hemp will save the world, to the point where when I was young, my mom was like, just repetitive with it with my friend. Did you know hemp this? Did you know hemp that? Like, Mom, can we stop with the hemp thing? Well, here it is 25 years later, and she's still on that, you know, page. And it's, you know, when it became legal, she's like, well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
You know,
turns out she was right.
Yeah. You know, and now she's a big fan of, she has rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
She uses, you know, cannabis to help, you know, manage her pain.
Yeah.
You know, she's not like the big pothead, you know, person, but that's in her regimen now to help her.
Yeah. My mom was the same way. My mom and dad had a CBD company. They don't have it anymore. They've done other things. It's a struggle, you know, when you're competing against big, huge companies to do a boutique product.
Sure.
But they're big fans. Sanjay Gupta changed everything for them. Second 60 Minutes came out and he's like, how can you have a kid and tell them that they can't have the medicine that'll make them better?
Yeah.
Which that resonates with people that don't smoke cannabis.
Yeah.
It should resonate with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody that has kids, it's like, who are you to say that your kid is not allowed to take something that might make them better, that definitely won't harm them?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who are you to say that they can't have medicine?
Why did someone recently tell me, like, well, you'll go to jail if you have your kids this. And I was like, I'll plant my flag. Yeah. I'll go to jail. I don't care. This is the right thing to do.
If your kid has seizures,
yeah,
how is that anybody else? You know, I mean, or your kid is terminally ill with fucking cancer.
Yeah.
Who are you to say that somebody else in that situation shouldn't be able to try things that can only, you know, I don't see any negative impact from using cannabis.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, we're talking about
your lungs is bad. Smoking your lungs is bad. We could all agree on that.
But Delta-9 THC taken orally as a medicine, as a plant medicine, I just...
There's a place for it.
There's a place for it. And nobody has an argument, in my opinion, that it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, wrong to try.
Yeah.
Wrong for you to make a decision for yourself or for your children that might make them better.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so many people feel very helpless. So, and especially 20 years ago, we were really helpless, and you could go to jail for giving your kid medicine.
Oh, you can still now.
Now it's possible, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's, I mean, we'll get there one day. I just, you know, I didn't vote for 64. I'm sure a lot of people like us didn't vote for it. I read it right away and was like, oh, I thought it was going to be the greatest thing for us, for the community. And I was reading it and I was like, no, they didn't write this for us. They wrote this for big corporation, you know, and, you know, here we are 7 years in and, you know, every mom and pop has been, you know, just about decimated, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're seeing a resurgence but you look at Humboldt, and Humboldt County is nothing compared to what it used to be, the amount of grows. And I mean, it was traditional or whatever.
Yeah.
But the passion that stemmed out of Humboldt County.
Oh, yeah.
Was something special. And the flower quality that came out of there, like the top shelf, I don't see that stuff anymore, unfortunately. Not in the abundance that it was.
Yeah.
Because if most people around today that weren't around back then were to see that quality, that smoke, they would have a different appreciation for outdoor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are like,
outdoor.
Fuck the
outdoor.
I
love outdoor.
That's the real flavor, right? Especially if you get a good OG or something that's piney and earthy, like you smoke it and you taste all of that pine, all of that earth, citrus in there. You can't go wrong with that. And then it's another one of those feel good moments where like a lot of that stuff, you can smoke it day or night. You can smoke it in the middle of the day. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You feel amazing.
Same plant, indoor, outdoor, 2 different highs.
Yeah.
2 different highs. I mean, it's there on the indoor, but that outdoor.
Yeah, and you can have 2 completely different experiences.
Yeah.
So, and then some of the stuff, you might have to smoke more of it because it's not as concentrated. But like, it doesn't matter because you get that good flavor.
Well, that was like the same with GDP. Like GDP wasn't, I mean, we didn't have testing back then.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't know how, I've heard, you know, like GDP is a low tester. You know, it's like, well, I don't care. It was like, it was the taste. Yeah. You got high. You might have had to smoke a little more, you know.
Yeah, then it tests in the 20s.
I mean, it wasn't, back in the one-hitter quitters, you know. Right. One hit, you're done.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's been a while since I've had a one-hitter quitter.
Yeah, I mean, so I just smoked some creeper weed for the first time in years, and I forgot what creeper weed really is because I smoked this stuff, and it was given to me by John from Huckleberry Hill Farms.
Okay, yeah.
And it's called Mom's Weed or Mother's Weed, and he gave me the White Thorn Rose, which I love, and then I was like smoking on that, and I'm like, I got to try some of this other stuff. So I rolled a joint of it. I'm puffing this joint. I'm like, fuck, dude, this stuff's not getting me high. Like literally not getting me. I smoked probably a gram to my head. I'm like, fuck, this stuff didn't really get me that high. And it tastes all right, but it's not as good as the White Thorn Rose. And I'm sitting on my couch and I do this trivia thing I play trivia quest or trivia whatever. It's on Netflix. So
okay.
It's this trivia game. And so I'm playing that and I'm like 10 minutes in and all of a sudden I'm like, I feel great. I haven't had creeper weed and I don't
head change
how long where it's like you're not high, and then all of a sudden it creeps up on you and you're like, whoa. Yeah.
Dick in the dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you consume a bunch of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the delayed effect from that.
Yeah.
And that's great. And we used to have stuff like that where you'd be a little bit high off of smoking something. Like you take a bong rip, you'd feel little head change. And then all of a sudden 15 minutes later, you're like, can't even open your eyes.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed that too, you know, stepping away from the industry like I have, you know, and I had variety, you know, everyone was always throwing samples at me. So I was just smoking stuff all the time. And, you know, now I'm focused on other things. I'm not smoking as much. And so when I do smoke now, I'm just like, whoa, I get high.
Yeah.
You know, like high school high, like I did back in the day.
Yeah.
Like chems always do that to me. And that's why I love chems. I always call it high school high because it gets you to that level of high where you're like, shit, everyone knows I'm high.
Yeah.
You know? And chems, it's like, I don't personally, my endocannabinoid system, I guess, does not have a tolerance to chem. And it just gets me high. I could just smoke it all night.
Well, the sour was a low tester. I remember testing some sour when they first started doing testing before it was Steep Hill. I mean, there was Halent. I got Halent Labs. They tested some stuff, and I still have the testing results from it. I think it was sour diesel. I tested 12.5% or 13%, something like that.
Super low, yeah.
Super low, but it was strong. It would kick your ass.
Yeah.
Especially compared to the stuff that's like 25, 27, 30% now.
Yeah.
That stuff was strong and it's sour. It was like couch lock weed. Like you would smoke it and you would be wrecked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at 12%.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad, you know, he's an old school, long time smoker. Same with my father-in-law. And I think that's one thing that the industry is missing is, you know, they try to cater to that demographic, that 21 to 35-year-old male drives the industry. And that's why we have all this purple gas. Well, you have these guys from the 70s and the 80s who are, you know, in their 70s now, and they want to come back to cannabis. Yeah. You know, they've raised their families. They've got their grandchildren now. Both my father and my father-in-law, you know, like the weed you guys have now. Nope. Can't do it. Yeah. And so it just seems like to me like the market is missing this whole demographic of buyer because the THC levels are so high and so through the roof. And I've always, everywhere I went, I've always tried to push, get them a 1-to-1.
Yeah, for sure.
A Panama red, you know, a 10% to 10%.
Yeah.
Something low key for these. It'll bring those old smokers back into the fold.
The Whitethorn Rose, if you have a chance to get it, if I can get some, I'll get you some.
Love to try it
with those guys, and to give it to those guys, because I feel like I just want to give it out to everybody. And I'm growing some Blue 13, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give it out to all the OGs, all the older guys that don't want strong weed but want the good effect.
Yeah,
because there's certain varieties that just make you feel good, and I feel, and I don't know, I haven't done enough testing. This is all anecdotal, right? So it's all just on me, and I feel like there's a lot of people that would probably benefit from it, where they smoke it and they just feel great, and they would love that, and they would want to smoke more of that, and they would just enjoy weed again. And I feel like, because some people it's too strong or whatever, or some people they're lightweights and it makes they get heart palpitations or whatever it is. Yeah. And it's like, but if they smoke this stuff, they would probably feel good and be happy and be like, yeah, I like weed.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, and again, though, try back to the 10-week strains in a commercial production. They won't do it. Just it doesn't fit. Sorry, we can't do it. The demographic who's going to buy this is too small.
Right.
There was a gentleman who came to us, one of the companies I was working for, and he was trying to pitch that same idea. And he came to me first through a connection of a mutual friend. Yeah. Hey, Jimmy, I got this buddy, Jerry. I want to introduce you to him. He's a marketing guy. He's not even a weed guy. And he comes and he pitches this whole, and when he starts pitching low THC, I was just like, yes, I have been talking about this for the last 5 years, 6 years of companies trying to, and here he had the whole marketing deal packaged. It was this low THC, a light beer, a day beer.
Right.
It's kind of, it's a
daytime.
It's a daytime smoke, or for, that guy who used to smoke in the 70s and the 80s, who only had 10 and 12%, THC back then.
Even so, I've smoked some really cool CBG, and I'm working on some CBG stuff right now. And I mean, I think some of those guys would love CBG because it doesn't really get you high. Mm-hmm. It does make you feel different, though. So you get a little bit of head change, whereas you're not really high. I could smoke it any time of the day and not be high, but it does make me feel super relaxed. Yeah. And I think some of those guys that used to smoke just the leaves, maybe that's what it did it for them. And maybe there was CBG that they were smoking too, because it's a precursor that turns into CBD. And
and that's, back in the day, we had Pretendica.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think back then, now what we know now, those were CBD strains.
Yeah.
Those were CBD dominant strains that we just don't.
It didn't even get you high.
It didn't get you high, but it looked just like the stuff that got you high.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's a good chance. Yeah, we didn't have testing, so we didn't know. The Pretendica.
Yeah, the Pretendica. That's, you bring up CBG, and I really would like to try some myself because I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's great, especially if you don't want to necessarily be high, but you just want to relax and chill.
Yeah.
I think it's a great alternative to cigarettes for all you cigarette smokers out there. I think it's a great way to go because you do get an effect, but it's not like you're so high you can't work or you can't do this or you can't do that.
Sure. It's this weird euphoric kind of high to it. You're just elevated or something.
You're just elevated. And it's almost relaxing. Like ibuprofen is for me when I take, because I don't take ibuprofen a lot, but when I do take it, ibuprofen really relaxes me. Like,
oh, wow. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Never caught that effect from ibuprofen, but
yeah. I mean, it's a muscle, it's a anti-inflammatory and it relaxes your muscles, but that makes me, I could sleep when I take ibuprofen. I'm like one of those guys, I'm always working. I don't sleep that much.
Yeah.
So if I take Benadryl or I take ibuprofen, it makes me tired. Oh yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. I've gotten that way too. I mean, I'm in my 50s now. I've gotten to that point where if I sit on the couch for too long, I'm out.
Yeah.
Really? I've gotten to that age?
Well, I feel like because I work so much, when I do sit on the couch, I'm out.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, like I can't stop. Unless I'm going, I want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys that I'm halfway through the movie sort of guy.
Yeah. My wife, she's like, your head hits that pillow and within 5 minutes, and I say, I know.
Yeah.
And that's how I run. And then, that could be at 9:00 at night, 4:30, boom, I'm wide awake.
Yeah.
Like every morning.
Yeah, I'm a 5 a.m. sort of guy too. So my time is 5. And even if I'm not staying up like let's say on a Saturday, I'll wake up at 5. I might go walk around a little bit and then I go back to bed, but I'm always up at 5, like 4:49 to 5:00.
Same, like clockwork. I'm glad to be getting old, but at the same time, man, I have a fake hip now. I got ankle reconstruction. They want to give me another new ankle because I'm bone to bone.
Nice.
So another reason, you know, like I'm falling apart physically, you know, just from all of the, you know, the cannabis industry work.
Sure.
You know, being a farmer, doing this stuff my whole life, potting up
passion
plants.
for the sacred plant. It'll do that to you.
Yeah, you know, and it's really, it's starting to take an effect on my body, you know, physically. Yeah, even, you know, and I always promote, you know, melanoma awareness.
Yeah.
You know, I've had melanoma.
Oh,
I've
wow.
had skin cancer, you know, and to all you, you know, young growers out there who, you know, out there doing your full terms and you're in the sun all day and, you know, cover yourself up. It's important, you know, because not only that, like I spend, you know, my days out in the sun and then I'll go into an indoor room where I have UV pounding me all day long too.
Go get your sunscreen in Europe. Don't buy this American stuff.
No, yeah.
I mean, I'll probably get some hate for that.
Well, I'm not a fan of sunscreen, period.
Yeah.
Just greasy, oily. I have a UV protective clothing. Like
Yeah.
I'll wear a UV gaiter. I'll wear a long sleeve because I just don't
That's
like.
the way to go. And I think some of these creams and some of these lotions, these SPF lotions can cause cancer.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on the subject, but I know in Europe they're a lot healthier and they're a lot cleaner. They don't test them on animals.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, because the ones in the state, you have to test them on animals.
Okay. Yeah. So my first time, it is my first time going to Europe. I went to Ireland and just see their culture compared to ours, all the things that they don't have in their food and in their products and in their society was just kind of it was an eye opener to me, you know, like, whoa, okay. I mean, they don't even have high fructose corn syrup banned. Yeah. You know, like, so it was just interesting. The food tasted different. It tasted better.
The bread. I think the bread, for me, I digest the bread better. For sure, I digest the bread in Europe better. So something with the gluten.
Better quality, yeah.
Roundup.
Oh.
There's no Roundup over in Europe. It's all fucking banned. Yeah, there's
it's
no
funny you bring that up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I applied hundreds of gallons of Roundup on the weekend as a state. You know, I have a state license.
Yeah.
I have a QAC. I you know, for a while there, I, you know, started a family. Right. You know, Dad's like, you got to get a real job, son. Of course, you know, I got to get some benefits here. And he gets me in with the state applying, you know, being a pesticide applicator. And so glyphosate. And so I end up, becoming a state applicator. And that's where I got my education, basically, like understanding. So I had that, you know, and then here comes legalization around, you know, and I realized, oh, wow. All of my friends who are now going into this legal thing, they're going to have to follow all of these rules, all these ag rules and all these pesticide safety rules. And that's where I come in. And so I was able to come into places and explain to, you know, people who thought they had like the full compliance program, you know, well, we've got everything. We've got the metric. We've got this. Okay. Are you guys doing your pesticide use reports? What are those? Yeah. Oh, so you're not doing them. You're not doing your monthly pesticide use reports either. What's that? Well, that's where you have to report all the stuff that you've applied. And so I already knew this whole system. And so when legalization came around, I read that like, you know, oh, this isn't for us. This is for corporations and stuff like that. I just kind of pivoted. I was like, I'll do this consulting thing. Yeah. You know, where I'm helping my friends, you know, who don't know. And we're the cannabis industry. So they're going to come down hard on us. For sure. You know, I've been through inspections. They're waiting for just give us a reason to, you know, to write you up something, you know, that's not in compliance. And so, you know, I already knew how to run these programs. And so I was super confident in selling that information to people and going in and setting up IPM programs and reporting and record keeping and all that stuff from my, you know, past, you know, as being an applicator with the state for a while there. Yeah. Fortunately, I only did that, you know, for like 2 or 3 years. I ended up getting injured because of union rules. I had to give up my position, which I was kind of fine because most of the time, all I was doing was applying glyphosate on the weekends. Yeah. Hundreds and hundreds of gallons every weekend. And I, you know, I was just like, you know, this is not, you know, being an applicator is not a career. Yeah. It's not something you want to do for 25, 30 years. Mm-hmm. So when I got injured and I had to like give up that position as an applicator, I was perfectly fine with that. I bet. And I just, you know, and that's, you know, when I had to get my first ankle reconstructed. And so I just pivoted, you know, took that and like switched it over to the cannabis industry. And, I still do, you know, people still hit me up who are having, you know, questions about compliance or, you know, just, you know, some of the recipes that I've. SOPs. Yeah, you know, and a lot of them are friends and homies. So it's just, you know, I want to see them succeed.
Right.
You know, I want you to be successful. I'm not going to charge you for what I've no. I mean, we were all, you know, this all started off as, you know, we all shared the information with each other. So with
people.
Yeah, with cool people.
If you're a good person.
If you're a good person, you're going to be a good grower.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing is back in the day, you know, if you were a shitty grower, well, that's because everyone you knew was a shitty grower.
Yeah.
You had a shitty network. You know, if you were a good grower, it's because you had good people around you.
Well, I think a lot of people got by because I had friends that were shitty growers and I had friends that were amazing growers, but the shitty growers still got by because people would still buy weed for a good amount of money. And those guys are long gone because people won't pay for shitty weed now.
No.
You know, it's $300. It costs you more than $300 to produce a pound. And there's shitty pounds for $300.
Yeah. Well, when all that BC came around, it just really wrecked the market. It just destroyed. All of a sudden, you had this middle category, you know, that was like, what? It's not the brown
went away for a little bit, right? From like 97, there was like a decline in the home grows until 2001 when the World Trade Center happened, 9/11. And then all of a sudden, the borders were locked down. So the BC bud wasn't coming in. And so all of a sudden, home grows started popping up again like crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
So there was this resurgence of all this stuff. And people were striving to grow quality, but I think a lot of people were like just resting on their laurels. They grew good enough weed.
Yeah.
And they were still making a good, like you could make a good living if you were just willing to grow plants.
See, in my whole thing, you said the good enough weed. It was, you know, if you grow good weed, it sells itself.
Right.
It should.
That's the best part about it.
Yeah. And so I was always fortunate enough to be a good grower to where my stuff was sold before it was even dry.
Yeah.
You know, they were just waiting for me to say
they would take it when it was still a little bit wet.
Just a little. And I was one of those guys, I would dry for 3 and 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I wanted a long, slow dry with a cure and all that to really bring that flavor out. You know, I had a network of friends who were doing OG and they would send that stuff down to, you know, LA half soggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dry, but by the time it got to LA, it sweated out.
Yeah, they weren't burping it.
And they weren't burping it, you know. Yeah, it just was all gooey. And the guys were still taking it down there. I said, yeah, but eventually they're going to find someone who has the same, at a better quality, at the same price, and you're out.
Yeah.
You know, and so I always made sure that, I grew the best that I could. It was always sold ahead of time because if it was subpar, now you're having to shop it everywhere.
Exactly.
You know, and it was just, sample for you, sample for you, sample for you.
Well, then your price goes down.
And then your price drops and drops and drops.
Whereas you could hold a good price.
Yeah.
You know, especially back in those days when it was $4,000 a pound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you had the best. It'd sell itself. You didn't have to worry about it unless you grew Blue Dream at a certain point or GDP at a certain point.
At a certain point, you know. But, you know, if, you know, Blueberry Haze, you know, always just, no, it's not Blue Dream. It's Blueberry Haze.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the rename game was big back then.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. When Granddaddy Purple came out, you know, that was, you know, where, you know, things got confusing.
Yeah.
You know, because it was like, wait a, you know, where did this come from? Wait, how come I got Granddaddy Purple seeds, but half of my plants are green?
Yeah.
You know, how come it's not purple like the Granddaddy Purple that we used to get the third floor?
Yeah.
Well, because it's two different things.
Well, there was the pheno of the green Granddaddy Purple that was going around that would like maybe purple a little bit, but for
just a little on the inside, deep in,
a little bit.
Yeah,
but it was a green plant.
That was it.
That was the inferior.
And when people would show me the, you know, the picture of their Granddaddy Purple plant and it was green, I'm like, that's not it.
No.
What do you mean it's not it? I don't want to like
real GDP blacks out in it.
Yeah, and I would tell people like, and I don't want to, because, you know, people take a lot of pride. You know, we take pride in our work.
Yeah.
You know, and these, you know, people were very proud, you know, that they had GDP and they were working with GDP, and then they would show me and I would be like, you know, and it's like, it was really hard to, you know, to not, I was like, well, hey, that's how you want to do it. That's your thing. That's fine. You know, but just
a lot of that stuff went around dispensaries too, where they had like green GDP and it's like, how can it be green? It's not a green.
It's not purple.
It's got to be purple.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's called GDP for a reason.
Yeah. And then, when I let the cut go, finally, I think like around in 2005, again, OG had kind of taken over. Yeah. Purple was fading out. I gave it to a group of guys in San Francisco and a group of guys in Oakland. Where they went with it, I don't know.
It got everywhere though.
I heard it made it up to Canada.
Yeah, it did for sure.
You know, that
it was up in Washington. It was
up there.
It was, I mean, I'm sure it was in Colorado and East Coast and stuff like that too. But I remember from here when they started selling clones of it.
Okay.
You could buy clones in the dispensary, GDP, and it was maybe 2005 or 6.
Yeah, that's about right. And that's I mean, by then I had let it out. Again, not saying only I had it because it came to me as a cut. Someone else up in Humboldt had it too.
Right.
But to them, it was just the perp.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they didn't know that, hey, this other guy who got it and they took it down to the Bay Area and now it's Granddaddy Purple.
Sure, at one point it was being sold as Mendo Perp.
I'm sure.
Well, in Mendocino.
Yeah. There was only one person who actually like came really close, and that was Brandon from Dime Breed Seeds.
Yeah.
He came to me with a bag and he was just like, smell this, look at it. And as soon as I smelled it, I was like, that's Granddaddy Purple.
Yeah.
And he's like, I thought it was. I knew it was, and I knew you would, you know. He gave me a cut, and I held on to that cut for a while. And then I thought it was Grape Ape. You know, I thought the cut was Grape Ape because it just didn't have that structure.
Yeah.
You know, the GDP had those long, you know, leaves that kind of overlapped each other.
Right.
You know, and this didn't have that look. And so I was like, this might be a watered down Granddaddy Purple. It might be a Grape Ape.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, so that was the closest that it came, you know, to anyone, you know, getting close to it.
Yeah. Was
his. And then someone was he did a Granddaddy Purple back cross.
Yeah.
And some company, you know, when I was running processing for Lowell, we were doing third-party processing, and they brought in, you know, Granddaddy Purple back cross.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to see it. And
such a disappointment.
And it was just like, damn, this isn't it.
Yeah.
It didn't have the smell. It didn't have the look. It definitely didn't have the structure. The structure was way off. You know,
GDP, I mean, I'm not going to start going into what crosses have GDP that weren't named. People don't admit that GDP was in there, but there's definitely some stuff that I think is amazing throughout the last 15 years that they've crossed with it.
Yeah.
That maybe hasn't gotten its fair credit.
Yeah.
But if you had one piece of advice, I usually go for your younger self, but let's talk about for growers.
Mm-hmm.
What's the one piece of advice that you would give for guys that are starting out with their grows?
You know, I mean, I've been in a real different mindset. I'm fairly pessimistic. I'm not too optimistic about this industry much anymore.
Yeah.
So when people come to me and they tell me they want to get into no, don't. Let me tell you all the things that will go wrong.
Yeah.
And let me tell you all how much it's going to cost you and all this stuff. And so again, I'm just, if you want someone to pick you up, and I'm not that guy, I would say do it for yourself. Do it for the passion. Do it for your, don't, you know, think you're going to be, you know, cause it's expensive, you know, the R&D is expensive. Yeah. You know, unless you're a guy who, you know, has a network where you're sending stuff out of town or something like that, you know, you're doing traditional market. Hey, that's your own thing. But for the people who are trying to step into, you know, what we have now is, you know, 664, I wouldn't advise. I wouldn't do it. You know, it takes too much.
Yeah.
It really takes a lot. I mean, you got to be able to work out a loss, you know, and take some real hard hits for the first 5 years. And if you can financially survive that, then, you know, you might have a place at the table.
Yeah.
But if you're just, you know, again, if you're just, you know, firing up your garage for yourself, throwing a 4-lighter in there, man, just have fun.
Just have fun.
Have fun. Enjoy it. Do it for yourself.
For the money.
Don't do it for the fun. Yeah. You know, but, you know, do it for fun and do it for yourself. But then, you know, it gets to this point where it's like my energy bill, you know, on a residential rate, it's through the roof.
Yeah. So get a 1-lighter.
So get a 1-lighter, get some LEDs, do it small, because it gets to the point where you're like, wow, I could go buy even an overpriced ounce in the dispensary for almost cheaper than when I'm growing it on my residential rate.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where, you know, I was always on a residential rate. I never had a commercial setup. You know, I had access to.
You always paid for power.
Always paid for power. Well, back in the day, I had friends. we did big 100-lighters in Oakland where, jumping the power was the thing.
The only way to go, though.
The only way to go.
For your power, they bust you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there was even a time up north where they would infrared your power line.
Yeah.
And see it all just glowing. And, oh, this guy's pulling, you know, how many amps? Right. You know, and then you would see like the you know, or in places where it was cold and there was that one room in the corner where the snow didn't stick.
Right.
You know, because you had a, 90-degree grow room right there. So, yeah. So again, just, you know, do it for yourself, do it for the passion, do it for the love of the plant. It is probably one of the more funner hobbies. Yeah. If you really get into it, it will consume your life. It will be, you will race home to get to that plant, to get to that grow, to check your numbers, to, all that stuff.
Yeah. And the funny thing is when you grow your own, it's always good. Like you always think I feel like most of my friends think their weed is the best weed. Right.
Sure.
It's always good.
That's your baby.
Yeah. There's pride involved with sharing. And there's something special if you're a home grower that gets to either grow from seed or grow from clone, and you get to experience that plant for 3 weeks of veg, 63 days of flower, whatever it is. Maybe it's 54, maybe it's 70 days of flower.
Right.
Then you got to dry it and cure it. And there's all these little things that you can screw up. And then to get something that you can smoke, it's like that's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
I think being able to smoke your own stuff and know what that plant went through and have that relationship with that plant and then consume it.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's a great feeling.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, it's great. Same thing with growing vegetables.
Yeah. I grew up in a garden.
Yeah.
That's where I always had the green thumb. My parents, we always had a vegetable garden. Everywhere that I've always had, always lived, I've always had a massive vegetable garden.
Yeah. There's pictures of me in buckets when I was 5 years old, like 5-gallon buckets, big metal ones, because they didn't have plastic buckets back then.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, for a while there, growing was all encompassing. I had 60 house plants at one time. I mean, I would have to spend one day out of my week just feeding house plants.
Wow.
And then I had, the vegetable garden, which, there was a lot of drip going on there and took care of itself. Occasionally, you just have to toss some compost out.
Yeah.
And every one of my neighbors always was, free vegetables, even if you didn't want them too bad.
Yeah, you're getting
free vegetables on your porch. Everyone's getting free vegetables, and then, I always had my full terms and then had my indoors and it was a lifestyle, rarely does one's occupation become who they are, but I always tell people no, this is who I am.
Yeah.
It's become who I am,
Well, and the plant's giving you a lot. You've given a lot to the plant.
Yeah.
The plants, it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Right? So on some level, it's like what you put in is what you get out.
Yeah.
And you're an example of somebody that's put in a lifetime dedicated to the plant, and the plant's given back to you on many levels, and
it's provided me a book-worthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
People always say I should write a book about all this stuff, and
you probably should.
I don't want to. I get that. I get that a lot. I get it a lot though. There's part of me is like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool, and then I'm like, yeah, there's some stories in there that.
Yeah, well, that's why these podcasts are great, because we get the oral history of cannabis, and we get. Before history was told by the perspective of one person or a handful of people. Mm-hmm. And now with things like podcasts and YouTube and Instagram, we can get a real vivid picture of the reality of the situation. Because you're not just taking one person's perspective, you're taking 200 people from now.
Yeah.
And to be part of that, because I think we're all part of this bigger thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's especially with cannabis, is like, I did my thing in cannabis, you've done your thing, and I've done things outside of cannabis. I've done things with food and with other things, and it's all part of this network of amazing things that happen to make the world like it is right now.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, super fortunate, super lucky to be again, the things that I did back then, I didn't think 25 years from now, this is gonna be like a story people are gonna want to hear about.
Right.
And I mean, to be honest, I was super reluctant. People have been pushing me to do just this very thing that we're doing right now for a long time. You need to get out there and you need to tell this story. We all know the story. We all know you. We've all heard these stories from you for years now.
Right.
The rest of the community doesn't know it. And part of me was just like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Let this story be where it is, And as a matter of fact, it kind of feels like, Al Bundy living his glory days as a football player.
Yeah.
It's like, I did the GDP thing back then, but that's all done. That's all gone. It's all part of my past now. And now it comes up, here it is, legalization. And all of a sudden everyone's talking about it again, and all these stories and the origin histories of stuff. And I was like, okay, I guess I need to get out there and tell the story.
Yeah.
I went on that one podcast like a year ago.
Yeah.
And
Future Cannabis Project.
Yeah, Future Cannabis Project. I told the story on there. And I'm also, I never went back and watched any of them. I've never read any of the comments. I just, I'm kind of done, and that's it. Like, same with this. Like, I'll watch this, I'll send it to my family.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to get some pushback. There's going to be some people who, what?
There's always pushback.
Yeah, there's always pushback. Someone's got a story, and it's like, okay, cool. If you've got a GDP story a Granddaddy Purple story that predates 99, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Let's hear it. Because then maybe you have me predated, but I'm telling you, I was in the Oaksterdam scene.
Yeah.
From the beginning. There was no GDP. There was no Granddaddy Purple at that time, until the Third Floor named it. And then, a few years later, Ken released his seeds.
Yeah.
And Ken got the credit for it. And at the time, like, I didn't even realize that there was, credit, like he was getting credit for this because I wasn't on the forums. I wasn't keeping up with stuff. I didn't really pay attention.
We can call Ken's GDP and it's whatever.
Yeah.
It's like,
and he's got his thing and that's fine, And I mean, the one thing is he did, he called it Granddaddy Purp.
Yeah.
And it was Granddaddy Purple. So there is that subtle difference, which is, I don't know, and back then he used to put all the strains on there. He would tell you what he used to make those seeds.
Right.
And none of them were Granddaddy Purple. He never got a cut because I never put it out. And unless you knew who it came from up north, you weren't going to get it either.
Yeah.
Some people say, that was probably purple Urkel. It was just the way that I grew it. But I've grown Urkel and I've smoked Urkel, and I'm like, it's different.
Urkel. It's still, different. I mean, I have access to Urkel now too, and I like Urkel.
Yeah,
and I could tell you that I think they're maybe related.
Sure,
I think that Urkel might be the parent. It's possible, or the lineage is the same from the same region of wherever it came. It came down through some Urkel, or Urkel and GDP. At one point, have similar genetics, but especially if you look at compared to the purple Kushes that I've seen, and all the other purple things that I've seen over the years, those are the two that are kind of closely resemble each other in some ways.
Yeah,
but
flavors off though.
Flavors off. Flavors with lavender is completely different. Yeah, and Urkel is very soft. It's more subtle.
Yeah,
right? Whereas GDP is like terps.
Yeah.
It's like Urkel on steroids.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I miss it.
Yeah.
I didn't, know back then that I should hold on to this cut.
Yeah.
It faded again, when that OG came around. Even I at the time was like, okay, well, it's time to pivot,
CSI Humboldt. I'm pretty sure he's got the real cut.
Yeah. But me and him have had a few exchanges online about that. And he posted some pictures of GDP and it was green.
Oh, wow.
And I said something like, real GDP's purple. And that kind of fired up some people, and I actually apologized because he was trying to sell these, seeds.
Oh, yeah.
And here I was, kind of blasting him,
Finished green. I saw the clones.
Yeah.
But were your clones purple?
No,
it was green,
no,
right?
It was green.
And then it started getting purple.
Yeah.
Halfway through.
Yeah, halfway through. And then we'd get that deep set about the 6th week.
Right.
Yeah.
And it would go dark.
Dark.
It would go dark.
Midnight, just so dark. Yeah, yeah. So, and I wrote him and I apologized. Hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have, I should have privately written you and expressed this opinion. And I think at the time, he didn't, maybe, I don't think he knew about the GDP story with me.
Yeah.
So I was just some rando online. Sure. Which, I would be like, yeah, whatever, pal, too.
Yeah.
So, if he does, again, I haven't seen it. I haven't smoked it. I haven't smelt it.
Right.
The closest that I came to, though, was just with Dying Breed Seeds with Brandon at one time.
Yeah.
It was one bag one time. He showed it to me. And
I think I might have some photos. So I'll have to get you some I'll dig out some photos. I definitely have photos of the bud. And I probably have some photos of the plants.
Okay.
So
I grew God's Gift for a while.
That's a good one too.
Oh, it was good. Yeah, it was so good. And it had the taste, it had the structure, but it had that little gas note to it.
Yeah.
Still had a deep purple because we had that cut in Santa Cruz Mountains, for a while there. It was floating around. I think it was, I want to say Ricky out in out in Santa Cruz County. I forgot the name of his little company.
Yeah.
But some people like to give him credit for that God's Gift.
Nice.
Yeah. So
yeah, I don't know if God's Gift is Canadian or if it's from. I've heard different things.
Yeah,
love to get those guys on the show. And I love.
Well, that's the same with this. The Santa Cruz Blue Dream. A lot of people in Santa Cruz are like, yeah, it's actually Davenport.
Yeah, or Grass Valley, or
and then there's the Grass Valley,
Mendo, and I think there's different cuts. I think.
Yeah.
The thing is with Blue Dream, if you make S1s of it, the S1s are. I think it's one of the most stable crosses that's ever been made. Is Blue Dream because. You take it, and there's only 4 different phenotypes, typically. You get one that's dead on Blue Dream.
Right.
right? So like you can make seeds. You can get a dead on Blue Dream seed from the Blue Dream. You get one that has the structure, one that has the smell, and then one that has all of it, and then one that's not really very good.
Okay.
But still, with that, I mean, you can see how the S ones could be slightly different, but it definitely resembles and definitely is Blue Dream on some level.
Yeah. I think Santa Cruz Goat Farm Pac-Man out there, I know he definitely reversed the Arcata train wreck, who I talked about earlier. I think he might have even reversed the Santa Cruz Blue Dream.
I believe it was the Hayes brothers that created Santa Cruz Blue Dream.
Oh, really?
And the Hayes brothers, and they created Green Crack.
Okay. All right.
The real deal.
Wow. Green Crack, is that relation to Big Sur Holy?
I don't think so.
Because
I like the Big Sur. So that Mojave Richmond is the one who introduced me to Big Sur Holy Bud.
Okay.
And that is amazing.
Okay.
That's very hazy. That's like a haze. Like when I think of haze.
Okay. Yeah.
Holy Bud is.
Oh, it was papaya. My bad.
Yeah.
Was papaya Green Crack?
There's some relation to.
There is. Okay. Yeah. I thought there was a little blurred line there with those two as well.
Green Crack is the one that the high just goes away real quick. Like
super fast.
Right when it's on set really fast, but you build a tolerance to it real quick.
Fast. Yeah.
And then you don't get high from it anymore.
Right.
Like to where like it's like pretend a guy. Like I could smoke huge joints of it and it doesn't do anything.
Right. Might as well be smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, man, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah.
If people are looking to get a hold of you, I guess they probably shouldn't. But not only we ask people are trying to get a hold of you because you have Myers Creek.
Yeah, I got myerscreek.com.
Yeah.
I have a website there. It's you won't find any of my seeds on there just because one of the service providers is not allowing that. And I haven't tried to now. I know a lot of guys are able to do it now.
Yeah.
I just haven't sat down.
All you need to do is talk to me. I got you.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I haven't put my seeds up on a site. And so, I mean, but if you just, write me up on there, orders at myerscreek.com and, say you saw some of my gear on IG and want to get a pack. At this point, I've given out so much stuff. I'm only trying to basically, sell the merchandise, the hoodies, the hats, all those things. You want a pack of seeds? Buy a hoodie and you'll get a pack of seeds.
Nice.
I mean, the seed.
That was the old school way of doing stuff, though. Yeah. Buy the T-shirt and you get the weed for free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm kind of, that old, way of doing things. Like, the seeds are free.
Yeah. You're
buying a hoodie.
It's hemp anyway, so that's perfect.
Yeah. So on there, I've got, IG, you can get to me on there too, Myers.Creek. Yeah. But myerscreek.com. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And look forward to doing this soon.
All right on. Great.
We'll go fishing soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dad.